Welcome everyone to the last in our series of conversations about how partnership members are moving to virtual fundraising. This one is about developing creative campaigns that engage and inspire, and it's a really exciting one. Sarah Zyburt is going to talk about several different activities that they undertook, and she's also going to be able to share with us how well that paid off. And then we'll open the floor to other conversations about creativity. We all know how important fundraising events are to members. I say this over and over again, but it's not just how much money they bring in, but that they bring in that special kind of dollar, the unrestricted dollar, which is so critical to you, both in terms of your ability to actually get out there and lobby, and also in terms of your ability to work on the issues that you might not have a foundation supporting. So I'm particularly passionate about our work with Mark and Aaliyah, who have been great, not only in past years, but in this year, in trying to help us all understand this new world of virtual fundraising, which not only are child advocates experimenting with, but nonprofits around the country. And so with that, I'm now going to turn it over to Mark and Aaliyah, and we will get started.
Excellent. Hello, everyone. Mark and I are super excited to be here, and we're so excited to welcome Sarah to share some of her creativity. Every time I talk with her, I get re-energized about ways that I can, think about fundraising differently. So in a year that is really calling for all of us to do this, she's really a welcome voice in the mix. I'm going to lead the beginning part of the session, and then I'm going to transition it over to Sarah. And then Mark, who you all know is my intrepid co-conspirator, my business partner, he will be handling QA and facilitating those kinds of things. So please, if you have a question, put it in the chat, and we will make sure it gets answered. Also, if you not only just have a question, but if you have an idea or something that's worked for you or something creative that you've seen other groups do, this is kind of the idea behind these experience shares, is that we share things that have our attention. All right, so this, as Debbie said, is the final experience share workshop in this series. Hopefully it's not the end, but it does put a little bit of a bookmark, right, as you all are leading into your Q4 fundraising efforts. I think I have given Sarah some kudos already, but just so you know where she's located, she's in Flint, Michigan, and she is the VP of Advocacy and Advancement for Voices for Children Advocacy Center, and we are just so excited to have her here. Like I said, I'm going to provide a little context. Sarah's going to share some cool ideas, some cool things she's been doing. Chat in your questions. Mark will lead the Q&A. To set up context, I think every year, every day actually of this year, it's important to remind ourselves to really remember that our donors and people who support our organizations are people like us. And they are very much on this roller coaster that is called 2020. And it's really important, I always talk about leading with empathy and understanding, but in 2020, that's become even more important. Recognizing that some donors are dealing with virtual schooling, or some donors have, loved ones in the hospital and they're not able to go visit them. And some, folks have lost their jobs, and other folks are actually more busier than they've ever been before, because they might be a frontline worker or their job involves some COVID tangential issue, right? Like, everyone is on their own journey this year, and it's really important as communicators and as fundraisers that we kind of lead with that intention. In terms of key donor insights that we've gleaned from audience research we've been doing and audience research that other colleagues have been doing in the space, this is where people are to date, right? They're COVID cautious. Folks in our space are very much aware that this is not over, and they're actually kind of digging in their heels, waiting for an increase, right, in COVID repercussions. However, they are personally financially optimistic, and they have strong giving intentions, particularly to groups like yours that are basically helping advocate for populations, people who have been impacted most by COVID-19, right? So the inequities of our society have been put into stark relief, and donors are very much willing to give to groups that they think are helping shrink those inequities. However, they're tired, as we all are. And I have to say that between the time that I put this deck together and today, I had to add SCOTUS to this list. And that was just like another like illustration of what, you know, like it led with the election last week. And then today, as I was re-looking at the deck, I was like, oh no, there's another thing. So this is demanding attention. SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, in case that's not an acronym that you know. Election 2020, repercussions personally and in a macro level from COVID-19, fatigue and anxiety, competing organizations in your space. At the time I put this together, wildfires were very much top of mind for folks in California and Oregon and Washington. Hurricanes, right? Lots of natural disasters happening. The list can go on and on. So that is why being a purple cow these days is going to be in your benefit, right? Ways that you can stand out and demand attention amidst this, right, is your key to success. So I really strongly encourage you to think about ways that you can be a purple cow and not just your regular dairy cow. Hats off to Seth Godin, who wrote a book called The Purple Cow. Mark, how long ago did that book come out? Like 2002?
Yeah, 17, 16 years ago.
Yeah, so he was way ahead of the curve, meaning that if you stand out, if you are willing to take a creative chance, people will start talking about you, people will notice you, and you will have more success. Now, this isn't just in theory, right? This is an evolutionary thing in our minds, right? So the reason why creativity and different things stand out to us is because we're evolutionarily programmed to look for different things. On any given moment, right, we are being bombarded with countless inputs, right? There's a temperature input. There's a language input in me trying to formulate my thoughts. There is a visual input in me taking a look at all of you on the screen, right? There's like sound coming in. There's so many things, like my balance, like how I'm sitting on this chair. My brain is juggling so many different things, as is yours at this given moment, that we scan for things that are different, right? Because things that are different could be in our advantage, meaning food or shelter, and things that are different could be threatening to us, meaning the lion on the savannah or the coconut that's about to like drop on our heads, right? So we're constantly scanning for what doesn't fit in this picture, right? And the things that do fit in this picture, we ignore. Right? How many times have you opened up a newspaper and read the same like lead and you skip over that article, right? You can use yourself as kind of like your own experiment to see why do you decide on what Netflix show to watch? What is it about that show that stands out to you, right? Why do you decide to click on certain emails? Right? What is it about that email that got your attention, that made you get past the delete button? And that's what we're here to talk about today. Sarah's going to share tons of different ways that you can stand out amidst the blah, 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 blah. But here are some just very simple ones, right? That don't involve like huge campaign development. Your thank yous and acknowledgements. If they read like a form letter, or if they read like on behalf of the board of our organization, you are missing an opportunity, right? To stand out from all of the other folks who are sending that same form letter thank you. You can do a thank you card from a child in your community, or a video thank you from your staff and volunteers, right? These are just a sample of ideas. Cultivation messages, ways that you engage your donors on a monthly basis that don't necessarily involve an action or an ask. Jazz at Lincoln Center does this really cool curated playlist that they do every month. Amnesty International did this State of the Union bingo, where anytime the president said something, you like made a check mark on your bingo card, and they did like raffle prizes for it. PSI is a group that I work with that does reproductive health in the developing world. They are sending out a holiday card, and there's going to be a little snowman, but in the center, it's going to be a condom, a PSI branded condom. Just different things that can like be brand central. I'm not asking you to not be on brand, but that leverage your brand to stand out. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah for the experience share. And Sarah, do you want me to stop my share and allow you to share, or how do you want to do this?
So the only screen share that I have is the video, which I think I'll do right at the end before we go into questions. So it's fine to leave this dynamic slide up, or
I'll stop the share just so people can see your face. And then when you're ready, we can share the video.
Okay, thank you. Well, hi everyone. I'm so honored to be here with you. I want to start by hopefully making you comfortable. I want you to know that at our organization, I am a one-person shop. I don't have a large development team. I work in partnership with our president and CEO, and I engage our other staff in development and do my very best to involve our board, but I don't have a huge team of people. So I don't want you to feel like if it's just you, that means that you can't be effective. So I want to start with that. And so next, I just want to lay a foundation of, so for me, where this creativity in development comes from is the idea that every person in our society somehow brushes against the lives of children. So in my philosophy, every single person has a connection to what we're doing and what we're advocating about. So whenever I am thinking about development, it is so intrinsically tied into marketing for our organization, because if you know about us, even if you can't donate, you can tell someone else about us. And so that really informs my interaction with our current donors, with our community members, and I would encourage you to do the same. So what have we been doing? Well, 2020 was going to be busy for us anyway, and here's why. We had a capital campaign that we kicked off in February and is now fully funded for a building expansion. And so we kicked that campaign off at an event that we have every year anyway, but before I came on staff, that event was not a fundraiser. And so when I got here, it's a well-established event in our community, and I said, why aren't we asking people for money at this? We're making them feel really good. It's an awards breakfast for people who are doing great things in our community for children. Like, what a feel-good event. I said it's okay to make an ask. And so this year we did. We kicked off the capital campaign. We were able to get, I think, a little more than $50,000 between, like, we had a couple of businesses there who pledged right there, and then individuals, and then a couple like $10,000 gifts. And our whole theme for that breakfast was shine a light. So we got little pen lights. They were like the giveaway. And I wrote up a pretty dynamic little speech for our CEO that started with turning all the lights off in the room that we were in. And she turned on her pen light and she said, you know, children, sometimes they feel this alone. They're by themselves. And then she encouraged anyone who had a pen light to turn their pen light on. And it lit up the room, and it was this beautiful situation where people got to understand the impact that they were going to make by seeing it in that room. So that was a lovely, like, little creative thing that we did. It was part of the breakfast. It wasn't the central thing or anything, but I liked it. Another something that we had planned, and I want you to know we still are planning to do something like this when we can. It was planned for April, and it was going to be called Barks, Brews, and Blues. So this event was planned in partnership with a local microbrewery. We have very talented staff. Some of them are musicians, and so they were going to have some blues sets that they were going to play. And then we are fortunate at our organization, we have a dog, a black lab named Daphne, and she spends her work days here with us and is well known in our community. And so Daphne was going to be there, and then we had an outside area planned for other people if they wanted to bring their own dogs. And we were going to be, I know a picture of Daphne. I will find one and put one up. She is so cute, and if you look on our Facebook page, she is heavily featured because everyone just loves Daphne. So that event really fits in with where our center is a blue house. We're known as the blue house in our community, so we're really excited about it. And it was going to be in April, and it couldn't be in April. So instead, I invited and challenged my staff to put together a video, my staff that love singing and are beautiful singers. I said, okay, can you get on Zoom together and sing a song? And we'll, you know, say we had to cancel this event, which we did, and talk about, you know, if you can give a gift. And so I want to show you what they put together because it was beyond my wildest dreams. And I won't play the whole thing, but I'll give you a little taste of what we did.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light you see, no, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand now. Stand by me. Stand by me.
If the sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, and the should crumble to the sea. I won't cry, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me, oh, stand by me, oh, stand by me, stand by me.
Oh, sorry. I was trying to stop it anyway. So that's what they put together. And they sent it to me. Kalita's husband, isn't it? I am so impressed by them and just awed. Kalita's husband, as a kind of hobby, edits videos. And they are music lovers. So they put this together, shot it in like 2 hours on a really hot afternoon. And we posted it here and on Facebook with this message. And we have been so fortunate. It has resulted in a lot of donations, and it continues to resonate with people. So when we get donations in for our website, we're getting notes that say, we want to stand with you, you know, we saw your video. And so I feel like this is so special because we got to highlight our very talented staff. You can tell that it comes from their heart. And it's an earworm. We all of us around here, when it first came out, we had it stuck in our heads for days. So this is one of the ways that we have thought of to generate funds specific to COVID, because it didn't, involve asking anyone to come here. We were able to push it out via email, and we let our board know, so they were letting people know. So I wanted to show that off.
May I jump in here, Sarah?
Of course.
I think everyone was so moved by this, and I want to take advantage of this moment. Giving is emotional, right? Like, you can get someone to think, but first you have to get them to feel. And that video, like, I think all of us had that reaction where, you could hear about the need, you could hear about, how tough everything is, but you hear that song in the context of this work, and it connects to you in just such a powerful way. So I just want to give you amazing kudos, Sarah, in not only like coming up with the idea, but leveraging all the volunteer support to help you do it. Like you said, you're a staff, you're one person shop in terms of your fundraising and advocacy work. And it was just brilliant.
Thank you. So I'm gonna reshare so you guys can see her. This is Daphne, my entire fundraising strategy. She is such a happy puppy, and some of the direct services that we provide include advocacy in court with children. So when court is in person, which in Michigan it is not right now, Daphne is able to accompany children to court and go up on the stand with them so that they can pet her while they have to testify. So that's Daphne. We love her. You can see she's dressed as a superhero. If I had to tell you two brand things about Voices for Children, the first would be that blue, the color blue. We have a blue house. We're working on, for the holidays, some ornaments that are shaped like a blue house so that people can have those for their tree. And also in our center, we have the fireplace in front of which "'Twas a Night Before Christmas" was written. It was purchased by the family that had this house before it became a Child Advocacy Center, so it was shipped from New York. But so Christmas is a big thing at Voices. But the other brand thing is really superheroes. So we right now have a virtual 5K and 1K race happening, and they're superhero themed. So even though it's virtual, we have adults and kids dressed up as their favorite superheroes running around our community, taping themselves and sending in pictures for our social media. And the funds from that event do come and directly benefit our center. And putting it online, we were actually able to generate some additional revenue through the sale of t-shirts, and we made them available to mail, and so it was safe. But people have loved engaging with that, so that's why Daphne was dressed as Wonder Woman. It was last year's superhero race. You know, we also utilize, you know, when I talk about engaging all of our staff, we utilize our email signatures. We change them not super frequently, but a couple times a year, so that they're catching attention. They might be colorful. We're featuring a different thing depending on what's going on. They're very like approachable and worded pretty personally. So those are something, and they go to everyone. So we get questions, or, you know, I'll be sending out a specific email about something and I'll get an email back with a ton of questions about my signature. But that's a way to really start a conversation, which can result in a gift. Throughout COVID, we were sending out weekly update newsletters and e-blasts with resources. Those did not include any kind of ask. Those were for our donors and our community, because, you know, donors do want to know what they're getting from you. And as Aaliyah brought up, everyone's feeling really stressed right now. School just started, so if you're a parent or a grandparent, you have children at all in your home, that can feel really stressful. We are trying to be mindful and responsive to the fact that people are feeling overwhelmed in this moment. So for our organization, we're not inundating them with asks right now. We're trying to, you know, popcorn in with something helpful and relevant, and then step back a little bit.
Hey, Sarah. Question came in from, I don't know if Maddie is the right way to pronounce it. Can you give an example of a personally worded signature? And yes, Maddie is the correct pronunciation.
Okay. Yeah, let me, I should have had one ready for you, anticipating that question.
And while you look, if you have something, Sarah, and no pressure if you need to follow up after the call. I also find, like, out of office responders, right? Like, just these are the moments where people are just. I always put a link to, like, my favorite song that I'm jamming out to at that time, and of course I have my own agency, so I can do that. But like, your out of office responder is a perfect opportunity for you to, like, underscore a message of your organization at that time.
Yeah.
And to go for the feels, as Aaliyah's been talking about.
Yeah, and that's what ours, I am still trying to pull one up, but, you know, it might be something like, so in our community, the numbers for child abuse and neglect is 1 in 4 kids. So at back to school time, it might be something like, in a non-COVID year, it might be something like, as we all prepare for going back to school and are shopping for our children, the children in our life, we remind you that there are children who don't have what they need this school year. And so to make a contribution to make sure they have shoes or a book bag, and then there's a link in the signature to donate. And we usually tie it to a very specific something so that they know, you know, usually at the start of the school year, we might give away school supplies. This year we took them to people's houses for their kids because of transportation barriers. So giving them options like that. Right now, mine is about COVID. As you know, COVID-19 is affecting each and every one of us in different ways. At Voices for Children, some of our fundraising activities have been halted in the interest of health. We rely on your support to fund our ongoing services for children, please consider making a donation. And there's a link to make a donation.
Excellent.
Yeah. One other thing I want to highlight just quickly, this is an effort that came together because of one of our also very creative board members. Her name is Polly, and she knew that we occasionally get calls for help because we have Voices for Children in our name, so we get all kinds of calls from the community. And sometimes they are simple things, but things that maybe no one else is providing. So like shoes and winter boots is not something that you can specifically go to any other resource provider in our community for. And sometimes when kids come in, we notice either that they've outgrown their shoes or there are holes through the bottom, or they are just barefoot, which was happening a lot this summer. And so our board member said, we need a team of people who can, at the drop of a hat, if you make a phone call, fill needs like that. Just kind of whatever, we'll make it happen. And so they started this time last year, the Fairy Godmothers. And so this group does exactly that. When we get an ask, it might be someone who's about to get evicted. It might be, in one case, a dad who had just really suddenly got custody of his children. He didn't have what he needed in the home for them, especially his teenage girls. And so we kind of picked up the Fairy Godmother phone, and they make cash donations, but they also can provide whatever material things. And so that's such a great way to engage these community members. That there's like no amount is too small, because sometimes the asks are just really simple. And then our board members, who is responsible for engaging them between asks. So again, right now everything is virtual, so there's an upcoming virtual gathering where they're all gonna wear their fairy wings and bring their wands and drink wine. But we give them an update about, here's the impact that you've made since the last time. So very recently, what we needed were some natural hair products for African American young girls, which can be very pricey. And we want to be able to provide children in our community with the nicest things. So we put out a call to the Fairy Godmothers, and within 48 hours, we had those products. We have some more, so when the need comes up again, we have them here. So groups like that are specific and to the interests of some small group can be really effective. I see you in the chat, Leo. Culture of creativity.
It sounds like, and I'm just jumping in here, it sounds like you have a culture of creativity, and you know, culture begets culture, begets culture, begets culture. And so I'm just wondering, like, do you do staff meetings that are creative? Do you do things at board meetings that are creative to like get people thinking this way? Like, how does it work?
So, I definitely want you to know that at the beginning of COVID, Michigan was very, very locked down. And so a lot of us were working from home and just responding to emergency calls if we had to. So we increased the frequency of our staff meetings, and every single one had a theme. So we all got to see each other if we had wigs at home, or we would make paper masks, or we would find Zoom backgrounds that were just like wild. And so in our organization, we're so fortunate to have a president and CEO who says yes to things. She very much believes in taking thoughtful risks in order to get rewards and stand out. And so that's what supports, you know, another person could have said, oh, Sarah, I don't know why you're having our prevention and education staff, you know, make this fundraising video. But, you know, understanding that even beyond the work they're doing, your staff and volunteers and board have their own interests, and like, how can you tie that to what you're doing? A lot of times it fits in. So another kind of example of that, we work closely with law enforcement because, again, of some of our work is in direct service provision and a lot of like facilitation and coordination for our community. And last November, my office mate and I had an idea to do a No Shave November fundraiser for general funds for our center and have the different police precincts compete against each other. So like grow out your beard and send in pictures, and then there'd be online voting. So some of the runners up were ladies from one of the precincts who bought fake beards. It was amazing. And so for prizes, we partnered with local barber shops and had like a free shave and a hot towel and, you know, here's some beard care products in case you feel like keeping it afterwards. And so what was so nice about that, and then we're going to do it again this year, what was so nice about that was that the ladies at the precinct were a great sport about it and just participated too. So, you know, it's things like that, little things that people can get excited about and competitive about if you have partners who like to compete with each other. We also do a local dodgeball that is EMS versus firefighters versus law enforcement. And again, like it's fundraiser and Daphne comes out and cheerleads for everyone. And, you know, in these ways, we're both engaging our partners who do work with us, but then they invite their families and we sell t-shirts. And so it's like incorporating all of those different aspects and looking at like, what are the different ways with one idea that you can make money?
I love it. And I think what's really important too is remembering that it's okay to have fun right now. And that folks are really looking for ways that they can make a difference, but also kind of distract themselves from the chaos and you know, the intensity of this year. If you don't mind, Sarah, I want to share something that a local animal rescue group is doing here, but it's not necessarily completely applicable to many of your audiences, but I live in Brooklyn and it's kind of like, you know, we kind of like love these, you know, interesting, strange events. And so they're doing drag bingo, right? Where $20 gets you one bingo card and $30 gets you 3 bingo cards. And I'm going to join next week and, you know, have fun and help rescue dogs that I love, right? So just remembering that, like, really right now, you have a lot of license to do interesting things, right? Because the whole world is trying to figure this out. So, you know, it really gives you kind of like a get out of jail free card because you can try things.
And I think both of your examples, Sarah and Aaliyah, are illustrations that lack of funds and lack of staff are not good excuses for not trying things. We just had someone post on a listserv today, they're a medium-sized organization, and they're going, well, we can't do the things that the big organizations did. I think most of the big organizations I've seen have been way less creative than you, Sarah.
Well, we are a small shop for sure. And I do think that in some ways that helps, right? Because the only person that I really have to get to sign off is Nisi, and that's our president and CEO. And so I think with larger organizations, you kind of have more people who can be timid or maybe a little bit afraid about trying those risky things. But you know, if you are a small shop, you don't have to do it yourself. Like, find people who love that thing and they're gonna take it away and you can help and provide the information. And so the Fairy Godmothers thing is very much like that. Like, it is its own animal and we, you know, provide the thank yous on their letterhead, and we hold the funds here for it. We connect them with ways to help, and then we present out at their gatherings. And so it's not a lot of work and we get the income from it. And so I think, you know, similar to that bingo, doing things with scavenger hunts, what ways can you engage kids in giving and in your organization? Because I think that even still, sometimes those are the missing voice. And so we try to think about like, well, what are the ways that we can highlight kids helping each other, kids helping the community, because that's a really important piece. And so another exciting thing that's upcoming, we have a local gym, like a fitness center, and they've been closed for most of COVID because of the way the laws have been in Michigan around that. But they really want to help. So they're not like in a financial position to help, but they wanted to do something. And so we met yesterday and we talked about, they're going to do some like Halloween specific workouts. We talked about how kids are in front of screens more than ever. So they're going to develop some, you know, little 5-minute break exercises for the kids that they can do. And we're going to post those as a video series. Now that they are back open, they are helping spread the word. So, you know, they were, when we first sat down to meet, they were kind of apologetic, like, I'm so sorry we can't give. And I said, this isn't a meeting about you giving me money. You know, I'm so glad that you're moved to help. How should that look? And so I think asking that question, pre-COVID, I was a lot more aggressive about like, Leah's heard me say, like, don't give people the option no. Give people the option no. Right now, I think, you know, let people know if you're overwhelmed, maybe right now isn't the time, but we're here doing this good work. So when it is the right time, come talk to me. Aaliyah, I see your question. So what are barriers to creativity that you might experience?
Yeah.
So
I'm curious. I'm curious about other folks too. And then I would love for you to say like how you might get over those hurdles. So I'm, you know, I don't, folks are being shy and quiet, I think, which is fine. But this is much more fun if like folks are sharing amidst us. So Ileana, Nicole, Caitlin, Janice, these are folks that I've just had the pleasure, Luke, of working with. Like what are, as Sarah's talking, as we're talking about creativity, what are you like, well, that wouldn't work here?
And take yourself off mute. Don't type it in. We want to hear your voice.
And, you know, we promise not to share this with anybody who might get you into trouble. Like, as you're thinking about this, what is it? Is it time? Is it ideas? What is it? There she is. There's Ileana.
I'm thinking about time and just how like beaten down some of us feel. And so how sometimes feeling beaten down can be a barrier to feeling creative. I know I've been feeling that, and we've been in the midst of planning our end of year campaign and trying to think of some fun ways to get people inspired to give. And I'm just like, I'm not feeling fun or inspired about a lot of things right now. So how am I supposed to make other people feel that way? So this has actually been really helpful. And I can't wait to share your video with my colleague, Sarah. I think it will help get us like back in the right mood.
How do you do it, Sarah? How do you stay like above? Because I need some of that right now.
Well, first of all, I want to say, trust me while I'm also feeling beaten down. I am, as a person, really mission driven. So I have a lot of reminders around me in my office of why I'm doing what I do. But what I do when I need to pick me up, if you're a dog person, first of all, Daphne sometimes lives under my desk, and that is great. But honestly, we have our phenomenal and very vocal little focus group here at Voices, and that is made up of our children. So I have a very opinionated little 7-year-old. Tanisa, who you saw in the video, has a daughter who is 6. Her name's Kennedy. We have some other kids in middle and elementary school age range, and a couple of teenagers. And if an idea sucks, they will tell us. But they also have a lot of their own really creative ideas. So what I'd really encourage all of you to do, brainstorm obviously with other adults and people you work with who are safe to do that with, but run it by kids too, because even though they are feeling some of that, they have so much energy and optimism. And so that's a nice little recharge for me. So I definitely like check my ideas with that little focus group.
Maddie, it's nice to see you've checked in. Anything to share?
Yeah, I apologize. I'm in two spaces right now. I'm at home. I'm balancing mom duties, work duties, and school marm duties. So I wasn't planning on hopping in, but this has been a really impactful session, and I've learned a lot in just the brief time that we've had. Barriers to creativity, I think sometimes we're at McCoy, we're in Indiana, and some of our funding is uniquely tied to bureaucratic entities, and I think that tends to stifle some of the things that we can get away with. Luckily, John Brandon is our leader, and he's been a trailblazer for years. And so that's been incredibly fun. But also, I just think getting people to shift away from, what we've always done before and seeing our organization in a new light has been a barrier that we continue to, I've been on board for a little over a year, and like, that's just been kind of the biggest hurdle. And so if we can speak to, I know that that's not necessarily like a barrier to creativity, but I'm like, just a bundle of just like, hey, let's do this, this, and this. And I love everyone's ideas here and want to be able to take it back. But I would love guidance on how, if anyone has had experience with that particular barrier.
So I definitely think you're describing something that is really common in like systems and organizations, right? You want to make changes and the system wants to push back against you. We've always done it this way. And so I definitely, when it comes to funding and when it comes to a lot of other things with new ideas. So my recommendations, first of all, find allies. Find people who can help you push that agenda, even if it's just one or two other people that can drink your Kool-Aid and start like supporting that. Secondly, loopholes. I'm like the queen of tell me no, just try, because I will get around it. No is like a challenge. So whether it's, hey, I'm gonna bring you this idea, you say no, I'm gonna repackage it and bring it back, or it's, you say no and I'm going to sit on it in 3 months when the time is a little bit different, I'm going to bring it right back. So I would encourage you to, and it's so much easier when you have support from other people. Mark and Aaliyah can speak to, I have had times in the last 6 months that I've been very frustrated with exactly what you're describing, where I've just been like, why can't they get what I'm saying? And so sometimes it helps to just talk it out and to like devote that time to strategizing with someone who's outside the situation. So that's really my biggest recommendation. And then my other thing, and all of this is so like, I am the correct age to talk in Hogwarts houses. So this is all very like Slytherin of me. It's very political, but like, how can you make them think it was their idea? Because that is how you will not only get someone to do the thing, but like champion it. And so I'm sorry, I don't mean to be ageist. I just mean to be like, honestly, younger people will be like, oh, millennials are always talking about what Hogwarts house they are. And it's like, well, I am sorry if it resonates with me that I have these characteristics.
Gryffindor here.
Hey, I love that. I'm a Hufflepuff, and this pandemic has completely obliterated my power because I'm a hugger. Like, I'm just a big hug waiting to happen, and we can't do that anymore, right? And so I love that empowering piece, and especially devoting time. I think that that's been a critical piece in this during this pandemic, is finding new ways to give hugs that aren't like physical touch. And so I think that this creativity speaks to that in ways that that we wouldn't have had an opportunity to otherwise.
And one thing I'd add, Sarah's feedback is fantastic. I'd add that humor can be tough to get by, right? And it's really hard to be funny. So like the PSI condom, that is their brand, and we were able to get that, you know, approved because that is who they are. But that's not going to fly for a lot of organizations, right? So you can always maybe like stay away from the humor and the cheekiness and go to the heartstrings. Like the Stand By Me video, like, you know, Maddie, I think you'd be hard pressed to find, you know, even a bureaucratic person who would be like, that doesn't work for me. So creative doesn't necessarily have to be at the edge or funny. It can just be something different.
And look for like small changes that are going to have big impact. Always, because if you can like, I think about it like this. Is there a way that you can pilot it? Because if you can pilot it and it's successful, then you have something to sell them on. You can say, we tried it with this one partner, or we tried it with this one small thing, and it went so well. So let's expand that pilot. And I get less resistance about things if I am proposing doing it smaller scale. So I've had to learn that because I'm a very like, let's change the world kind of person. But I've gotten better results by being a little more cautious and, you know, trying it, studying it, and then having that data to say, no, let's move forward in this direction, or let's scrap this. My idea was not great.
I love that. And I think that there's some power in being able to admit like, hey, this idea didn't work the way we thought it was going to be. I think that that lends itself to the integrity of the organization in a unique way that speaks to board members, because we kind of have some people who are still wishy-washy. So I love like getting them involved in particular projects, but that's another hurdle that we experience too, is getting their buy-in. So yeah, I love everything that I'm hearing right now. Thank you.
Deb, did I see you leaning in to make a comment? I would be curious, we have just a few minutes left, and wondering if those of you who are hiding with your cameras off, if you just chat in 1 or 2 words of anything you're taking away from this gathering today. We know you're there. We know you're not reading your email. And we can continue the Hufflepuff versus Gryffindor debate another time.
I'm just, for me, as folks start writing in, I'm just so energized. I came into this feeling, and it just goes to show what a little creativity, a little community engagement, right, can do. I'm just so energized, right? And I think this goes to what you were saying, Ileana, about like feeling beaten down. I think it's, my takeaway is, don't let that get in the way of like, how can you shift your state? And really, this is what separates leaders, right? Like real leaders is people who can get beyond that.
It's a really great point, Aaliyah. I'm in a much better mood than I was 45 minutes ago. Janice, welcome to the chat.
Thanks. I wanted to jump on and just to ask a question of, and I don't mean this in the way it might sound when it first comes across, but how many flops do you have? Because I'll tell you what, I would totally do a video if I knew the quality was going to be the quality of your video, but I'm not sure that I have the trust in my board and their creative outlets and you know, that they would do that creative thing. So how many times have you like thought, this is going to be great, I'm going to do this, and you look at it and you're like, I can't put this out to the public, you know? So can you talk a little bit about that?
Plenty of times. And I take the same philosophy with that as with an ask. So maybe it won't work the way I thought. How am I going to use it? Maybe I heard something in that video, I saw something that's like, actually, instead of this compilation video that we were thinking of, I just want to do like a sit-down interview and film it with this one person who was in there who like was scene stealing. But like, absolutely, don't be afraid to make mistakes. I learned so much from the mistakes that I make. I know, like, it's white supremacy culture to be like, nope, mistakes are toxic. And again, like, I'm so lucky with our leadership that we have those very stark, clear conversations when you make a mistake, because I beat myself up over mistakes. I'm human. But it's really saying, like, no, what is this mistake teaching you? And what are the next steps going to be? So I absolutely have flops. I do not want you to think, because I'm presenting about the ideas that have been useful, that we don't have things that have been like, oh, yep, not doing that again. And it can feel in that moment like, oh, did I just waste all this energy? I give myself a little pause, and then I say, I'm going to either come back to this and think, what good thing did come out of this, whatever it was, and or I'm going to ask someone else outside myself. I'm very fortunate, the office mate that I have who isn't here this week, but I can be like, Ethan, this is such crap. And he'll look at it and be able to point to like 3 things that aren't. And that is helpful for me. So I would just encourage you, and I can share my contact information if you ever want someone to like bounce ideas off of.
Be careful, really Sarah.
What? I like connecting people, but yes, I don't know how helpful that is, but I definitely make mistakes. Taking risks is the business of making mistakes and having some of the risks not pay off.
Yeah. And Nicole says that one of the things she's taking away from this is don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Right.
Yeah. And Sarah, I hope you'll take a minute to just look at all the ideas that you have catalyzed in 56 minutes. It's pretty impressive.
Does anyone else have any questions, parting words? I think, you know, Sarah, as I close, and if you do just, you know, put stack in the chat, and we'll let you have the last word. But going into year end, where there's just so much competition, where there's so much exhaustion, I just am really happy that you volunteered your time for an hour to like help us raise our gaze a bit. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I personally needed that. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. I care about what all of you are doing, and I know it's hard. And I'm a very transparent person. So even as we're making those end of year asks, I'm saying to our people, we know you're tired. We know we're tired, but our work is relentless because the problems we're trying to address are relentless. And so if what you need to do is make this as simple on you as possible, here is the link that in 3 seconds you can make that donation. You don't have to think about it anymore.
And Sarah, what's your contact information again before we all go our separate ways?
Oh yeah, I'll put it in the chat, sorry.
That's great. That's great. So everyone, thank you so much. It has been such a great hour. And Sarah is putting her email and her phone number in the chat. So if I were you, I would copy and paste that very quickly.
And oh no, I'm not running the show. Yeah, do it very quickly. And Aaliyah and Sarah, I want to thank you so much. This was a lot of really doable ideas that are geared towards partnership organizations. I think it's really inspiring.
Great. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.